Oh no, he didn't.
Where's the money, man? Where's my money?
It's time to man up, America.
Let's do this.
I think we're in now. There we go. We were missing the mic. I was doing all this talking and nobody could hear me. I feel like I'm at home with my children when I just say things and no one's listening. Like, son, don't eat that. Stop hitting your sister. Quit back-talking your mother. It just falls on deaf ears. So here I am in the studio, and this is supposed to be different, right? I'm on the radio, Talk 101.3 The Buzz. We're live WTNB studios here in Cleveland, Charter Channel 5, Comcast 210, and 27.1 on your digital TV dial. And I don't even have the microphone on for you to hear me. But we're live now. Welcome to Man Up America, Thursday's show. I'm excited about today's show, and I'll tell you why. Everybody goes, Adam, you're excited about every show. That's true. That is absolutely true. I'm excited about every show. Every day I come in here, I sit down. Mr. Producers can tell you. They're telling me to look into the camera. This is a radio show that you're just capturing candidly here. My eyes wander. Somebody told me I need to wear sunglasses because they said, your eyes are going every which way. I said, well, I'm just thinking, right? My eyes are rolling as I think. This is why I'm excited about today's show, because it's about football. Because 'tis the season. And everybody goes, Christmas. No, bowl season, right? Bowl season. So bowl season. We now know who is in the college football playoff. We now know the committee, in all of their infinite wisdom, has made their selections, and we just lost all our political listeners. They zoomed out. But if you are a political person, we're talking about politics today. Just not U.S. governmental politics. We're talking about college football politics, because that's what it's about, folks. I've seen all of the arguments on how the committee got it right, how the committee got it wrong. At some point, we're going to have to man up and say it's about money and it's about politics. Okay, this is not something that is strictly based on skill, practice, whatever. Okay, we're going to talk about a few things today. Specifically the college football playoff. For those of you who haven't been paying attention, there are 4 college football teams that have emerged in this year's college football playoff and will play for the national championship. And newsflash, the Tennessee Vols are not one of them. Some of you tuned out as soon as the Vols lost to, well, probably tuned out as soon as the Vols lost to Vandy. I would say that's when you tuned out, as you thought, well, our season's over. Fire Butch Jones, fire the offensive coordinator, fire Neyland Stadium, fire the guy that makes the popcorn, let them all go because the Vols are done. So the Vols are not in the college football playoff. Last I checked, let's see, I think the Vols were slated for maybe Western Michigan or something like that. No, Western Michigan's too good. Maybe it was West Virginia. I think they were saying that the Vols might wind up facing – do we have that news yet? In their bowl game, have they made the bowl prediction for the ball? The Vols are headed to the Music City Bowl. This was 4 days ago. Okay, so they have made it 4 days ago. Let's see. So all you Vol fans, so you get your orange trickle of your orange heroin for the moment. Nebraska. The Vols versus Nebraska. That'll be a good game. Nebraska's come around in recent years. Nebraska's a good team. What do you think, Mr. Producer? Nebraska a good team? Do I need to cut your microphone on? Go ahead.
I stopped watching after South Carolina. I'm sorry.
So that's when you stopped watching, right? So fire Butch Jones?
No.
Now, I've said on this program, and I'll say it again, I think Butch Jones is an overrated coach. I don't like the fact that for at least 2 seasons, he sells out his players instead of taking responsibility for bad coaching decisions. And so, and I started that critique At the first game of last season when they lost to Oklahoma, I was at that game. Before my eyes, I watched him hand that game away to Oklahoma after having a 14-point lead. And then subsequently in the press conference, well, we've got young players and they're immature and they'll learn. I've yet to see Butch Jones actually step up and say, yeah, I kind of made some bad coaching calls. Even now, where people are calling for his head, what does he say? I'm going to a sincere reflection on the program in the offseason. I'm going to clean house. That's Butch for you. Butch Jones, I'm going to clean house. Tennessee Vols. All right, I've made all the Vols people mad. All right, so let's move on. I'm going to trash some other football teams, and I'm going to trash the committee. I'm the guy that thinks the college football playoff, I do like an 8-team playoff. I understand why they don't do one. I'm grateful that we even have a 4-team playoff right now. I'm grateful for that. But as we man up about the college football bowl system, let's talk about what really motivates it, and let's talk about what's really behind these selections, because I am a critic of this year's selections. I don't think Ohio State should be hunting for a national championship. I am the guy that says even with 2 losses, Penn State should have been the 4th team. So let's look at who's in that championship. For all you SEC fans, and for all the upset Vols fans that are now bandwagon Alabama fans, the Crimson Tide are the number 1 seed in the college football playoff, so they will be playing. Clemson from the ACC is in the college football playoff there. Ohio State weaseled their way into a seat once again for a college football playoff. And then last but not least, we have our friendly folks in Washington. So Washington's going to be in the hunt for that college football playoff. But I want to read you something from Fox Sports, which I think really sums this up. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the college football bowl system, a committee comes together and they evaluate the body of performance of each one of these college football teams. So they look and they say, based on performance, based on how you played your games, how you won, they kind of have this algorithm that decides whether or not you're a better team than someone else and whether or not you deserve to play this bowl game, that bowl game, or be in the championship. It's not necessarily record. Record's got a big part to do with it. But there are things like strength of schedule. Are you playing talented teams? Did you play and win against other teams who were playing and winning? That's a part of the decision-making. There's also this idea called the 13th data point, and I'll go into that in a little bit. A lot of you aren't familiar with the 13th data point, but it does exist. There is a 13th data point that they're supposed to factor in to bowl selections and to the college football playoff at the end of the season. So here's what Fox Sports, in an op-ed, kind of wrote, and I'm looking at the date on this. It wasn't long ago, yesterday. So this came out yesterday. It says for years, and this was actually written by Stuart Mandel, which I don't know too much about from Fox Sports, but he quotes Brad Houston, which is what drew me to this. Brad Houston's a pretty bright guy. So for years, I could count on this particular week's inbox being filled with fiery missives about the evils of the BCS. People certainly have gripes with the playoff, but they're less about the system and more about the selections. So first and foremost, the fact that we have a playoff right now is a good testament to the fact that people are much more confident in the BCS system than they were before when we didn't have playoffs. They're much more confident. Now they just bark about the selections, the teams that get picked to be a part of that system. So let's talk about these selections, he says. And Brad Houston's quoted, for 2 seasons, the committee told us that 3 things are important to in selecting bowl seats and championship contenders. The first is a conference championship. The second is the 13th data point, which I'll explain shortly. And the third is the strength of schedule. That these are the 3 things that are considered are important in selecting, outside of obviously schedule, that are important to selecting the teams that play in the playoffs. It seems like they just changed the criteria from year to year in order to shoehorn in teams that they want. Going forward, how do teams and conferences know what they need to do, quoting Brad Houston. So here's the evidence, a sampling. So one person speaks for the BCS committee, And the past few seasons, it was Arkansas Athletic Director Jeff Long, who was the chairman of that selection committee. And this is kind of how the dialogue around the championship has changed. He would say things like the bowl game, the importance of conference championships are tiebreakers and just one piece. So here's a sampling. Back in 2014 in November, quote, "There's a significant amount of football ahead of us, including the December championship games, which again, I will remind you about each week because they do factor into our ultimate decision." Once again, November 25th, 2014, the conference championship game is one that commissioners told us we would need to look at. So we were certainly going to be looking closely at conference championship games. November 3rd, 2015. This is last year. I will say it every week until the final week. Being a conference champion is an important criteria to the selection of the committee. November 17th, 2015, same chairman. Most teams have now played 10 games, so we have a substantial body of work. We are looking forward to the remaining games in the regular season, which feature a number of head-to-head matchups and, quote, here's what he says, "Let me remind you that the conference championships will become one of the factors that we look at in the final week." So that's quoted over and over and over and over again until this year. Guys, until this year. And this is what we see. And this is Mark, a viewer quoting in on this. "Why, when we've had the greatest opening weekend in college football history, would the committee put the team with the 127th ranked out-of-conference playoff or schedule in the playoff? It costs the conference a boatload of cash because lower ratings when only cupcake teams are scheduled. What are the TV ratings for Washington versus Portland State?" So criticizing openly Washington, which had strength of schedule 127th in strength of schedule. So remember, 3 criteria: conference championships, the 13th data point, and strength of schedule. Washington, 127th. All right, let's talk about Ohio State. They would have had a compelling case, but they're not the conference champions. Didn't play for it. They were beat by the Nittany Lions of Penn State. Penn State won the conference championship, but there you have it. You have 2 teams. I don't think anyone's disputing Clemson and Alabama as valid contenders for the college football playoff. I think everyone sees those 2 teams, and most of us feel that Alabama's probably going to walk away with this, but we very well could see another matchup between Alabama and Clemson. So this may take care of itself, but to even have a seat at the table, if you were Washington with the 127th worst schedule, out-of-conference schedule on your strength of schedule, or to be Ohio State and to not even be your own conference champion, but to be able to play in the national championship. So there's a disconnect between what the committee has told us was important and what now doesn't appear to be important in selecting these teams. So let's talk about this thing called the 13th data point. This is the 13th data point. It's the 13th game. There are teams who play a 13th game, and there are teams who do not. And it essentially is this, that if you played well enough in the regular season to make it to a conference championship, you run the risk of having one more loss than someone else in your conference. And we saw this several years ago. If you'll recall, I want to say Alabama LSU, we ran into this, where we actually had someone not make the national championship game, even though they had won out. We've seen it several times before here in the SEC when someone runs the risk. I think a few years ago it was Georgia. You know, because Georgia had to face Alabama in a national championship game, it hurt their bowl positioning. They had to play that extra game and run the risk of the extra loss. So to this year, the committee has always said that they factor in, that they consider that 13th data point. They consider the fact that you took on more risk to lose. Because here's what it boils down to, manning up on what teams do, folks. Let's look at that. Whether it's those 3 things that they say matter to selections. Conference championships, 13th data point, strength of schedule. All of those things are related to the amount of risk a team takes or assumes. strength of schedule. Every team could go out there and outside of their conference, they could schedule Cleveland State Community College. They could schedule Podunk University, these little football teams to get easy wins. So they said, we're going to look at folks who take on the risk of playing difficult teams in their out-of-conference schedule, that we're going to give them brownie points for being brave enough to take on that risk. It's good for the conference because we as viewers, the fan base, gets more games, more competitive games to watch. The TV markets get games that people are interested in seeing. No one wants to watch Alabama slaughter South San Antonio Community College. Nobody wants to see that but the Roll Tiders. My buddy Mylan Blake, he'll watch that game, right? Nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to see the University of Georgia absolutely pimp slap South Decatur University. Nobody wants to see that. That's not an interesting game. We want to see Georgia versus Nebraska, Tennessee versus Nebraska. We want to see those games. So the committee's always rewarded teams on a strength of schedule that take on risk. Same thing with the 13th game. The teams that take on an extra game take on additional risk. Not just risk of loss, but risk of injury, risk of fatigue before they go into the bowl season. How often have we seen someone play a conference championship, immediately turn around and go to a bowl game? They may have a 2-week hiatus between their conference championship and a bowl game, but the team that they play has been sitting at home conditioning for 6 weeks, resting. There's risk to a conference championship, which leads to that third point. The fact that you can win a conference championship means you take on the scrutiny, means that they're looking at one more error that you can make, one more injury on your offensive line. It's all about the risk that teams take. And here's the truth. The Washington Huskies and the Ohio State Buckeyes did not assume the level of risk that many people feel should have been honored by the committee to put them in a playoff. Now, there's some Buckeye fans that listen to this program. You live here in Tennessee. I love you. I do. I'm not a big Buckeye fan, not a big fan of the university, but they got handed a Christmas present. Hands down, got handed a Christmas present. So here's what's going to happen, guys. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I'm going to get an Ohio State fan on the phone, and we're going to ask him about his feelings concerning the college football playoff. Once again, you're listening to Man Up America, Talk 101.3 The Buzz, WTNB Television, right here in Cleveland, Tennessee. Hopefully you're listening to us 101.3. You can catch us online, 1013thebuzz.com, or catch the follow-up shows, past shows on YouTube, the WTNB YouTube page, facebook.com/manuptalk. Send your comments, manuptalk@gmail.com. Had a killer show on racism earlier this week, thanks to Demetrius Ramsey. Hope you looked that one up. We'll be back in a few to continue talking about football.
Woodman Life has been keeping its promises to members for more than 100 years. That means we've survived the Great Depression, Black Friday, and all the other ups and downs our economy has faced. In good times and bad, we're strong and stable. We're an organization your family can count on. At Woodman Life, we've always believed that slow and steady really does win the race. Our conservative investment philosophies are just one part of the strength of our organization. What really makes Woodman Life strong is the trust and loyalty of our members.
Contact your local Woodman representative today by calling 423-790-2847. With 3 offices serving Southeast Tennessee, your Woodman representative standing by to help you.
Woodman of the World Life Insurance Society of Omaha, Nebraska. Woodman Life, standing strong for generations.
Are you looking to refinance your home, or perhaps you're in the market to actually purchase? Take it from the good Dr. J. Adam. There's no need to go far and wide to look for mortgage help. Call 339-8086. Home Mortgage Solutions, LLC, right here in Cleveland. Their team's prepared to help you with lending, with refi options. Just give them a call, 339-8086. 8086 and tell them the good Dr. J. Adam sent you. The good Dr. J. Adam here talking to all the gentlemen out there. For those of you with wives, girlfriends, even mothers, which would make all of you, you need to call 423-472-8887 and talk to the good folks at Bliss Day Spa. Nothing says I love you like the special treatment, the VIP treatment of the services of Bliss Day Spa. Call them today, 423-472-8887. Tell them the good doctor sent you from Man Up America.
So, how's the new job?
Love it. But it's not just a job, it's a career.
Life insurance? Love?
I told you Woodman Life is really active in the community, right? They support all kinds of community improvement projects. How's your job, by the way?
Don't ask.
Begin your financial career today with Woodman Life by calling 423-790-2847.
Woodman of the World Life Insurance Society of Omaha, Nebraska. Woodman Life, standing strong for generations.
And we're back. We've got other sponsors for this program that we're still working up ads for, but you can catch them on WTNB. Special thank you to Line-X, Nissan of Cleveland, the venue Creekside, Stage AVL. I'm sporting this sweet Stage AVL jacket today. I appreciate those guys being on deck and helping us out. And Rocky Top Survival Supply. Some of you probably not thought about this, but maybe some long-term food storage, water filtration, preparation materials might be good for the holiday season for your family members. But you can find Rocky Top Survival Supply on Facebook or RockyTopSurvival.com. And again, Line-X Toyota or Nissan of Cleveland. That Nissan of Cleveland's a neat dealership. Y'all need to go out and see that. It's kind of a beautiful dealership. But get you a Nissan Titan, ride it over to Line-X and have them Line-X that truck bed. I've actually asked for something for my truck. I actually have a truck spray-in liner already from Line-X, and I'm getting a bed cover. So those aren't bad Christmas gifts. So if your husband or wife has a truck and they don't have a bed liner, that's something normally maybe we wouldn't do for ourselves or we wouldn't ask for. So consider that. Call up Line-X. So here's the deal. We're going to get on the horn, and we're going to call a friend of mine who is an Ohio native and also an Ohio State fan. And we're just going to have a conversation. What do you say? Let's have a conversation, and I'm going to have him make his case for why Ohio State, non-conference champions, should be in the college football playoff. So here we go. We're going to call him right now. This is Ron England. Many of you know Ron England. He works with the United Way, some other people. Let's get Ron England on the phone. Waiting on Ron England. We're just waiting. If he doesn't answer, that's cold. That's what I'm going to say. Ron, I've called you out on the air.
Your call has been forwarded.
See, now look, I told him we were going to call him. And so I'm going to send him a text right now to answer. Because he's calling back. Here we go. Ron England? Are you there? Let's put him on speaker. Ron England?
Hello?
Hey, are you here? Are you there?
I am.
All right, there we go. We've got Ron England on the phone, and I'm going to give Ron England the ultimate platform. I'm going to try to get you through the system here, Ron. Can you still hear me? I don't think you can hear me. Can you hear me now? That guy works for Sprint, by the way. He doesn't work for Verizon anymore. So here's the deal, Ron. I'm talking about the college football playoff here on Man Up America, Talk 101.3 The Buzz, WTNB Television, which is 27.1, Charter Channel 5, Comcast 210. I want you to tell me, not just from the perspective of an Ohio State fan, but as an objective individual, why Ohio State should be in this playoff.
I would say that the big argument is, of course, that we're not our conference champions, and therefore we should not be in. But until the rules are changed, there's always going to be the opportunity for a team that has not won their championship to be in the playoff. And therefore, with the rankings of the College Football Committee, we were in second. When the championships were played, we dropped to 3 by their opinion, and therefore we should be in the championship playoffs.
Well, there you go. Ron sums it up in a very simple way. Now, what I've been reading on the air today was, for the past few years, the College Football Committee has been saying that there were 3 key things that mattered in their selection for the playoff. And one of them was the conference championship. The other was the 13th data point, which essentially is the conference championship game, whether you played it or not. And then last is strength of schedule. So obviously Washington's under some scrutiny with not having a very good out-of-conference schedule and strength of schedule. But Ohio State's missing those first 2, which is why for a lot of people it's very odd, even with just one loss and even with where they were ranked, for them to be in the playoff. So is it safe to say that it has less to do with what a team actually does and more with how the committee feels about the team?
I'm not sure that I agree with that.
Okay.
I mean, when you look at the ranking, how many top 10 teams from the Big Ten were in the top 10?
There were quite a few.
I mean, I get that we like to question Ohio State's strength of
Yeah, but that's
schedule,
that's not necessarily a valid point, because Penn State is the one that had the argument for being in besides Ohio State.
Sure. And if I'm an individual, I like the idea of championship playoff, and let's make it a playoff of the champion. But that's not what we have right now. We have a playoff of a committee selection, and based on their criteria that you just mentioned. But to say that Ohio State's strength of schedule is subpar, I think that can be argued.
Well, Washington's strength of schedule was subpar. The criticism mostly from Ohio State was not playing that 13th data point and not being conference champions. Right. So, but no, there was some criticism with Washington concerning their ability to play cupcake teams out of conference and pad their stats. So I'm going to look up something, Ron. We're going to look it up together. I'm going to look up Ohio State booster funding. This is an interesting thing here. I'm just going to look up something here. Let's see if we can get some data points. Okay, so let's meet the big money behind the boosters of Ohio State. I'm just going to bring this up here real quick. Here we go. Big money here. Let's see here. Sorry for the draw here. Okay, it's got several here. I'm going down. I'm looking at. Okay, there's Southern Cal, Notre Dame. But I found this interesting. When we looked at the chief funder behind the Ohio State boosters for Ohio State athletics, who do you think it would be, Ron? Who do you think?
I honestly have no idea.
You no idea?
I really don't. It could be Warner, the Warner family.
Okay. Tell us who the Warner family is.
They're big in the broadcasting industry.
Okay. How about Les Wexner? Do you know who that is?
Oh, yeah, it could be Les Wexner. He owns Limited and all the Bath and Bodies and
Victoria's Secret.
He may have sold that off, but yeah, he's a big supporter. Makes sense.
Okay, he is the richest man in Ohio. He gave $100 million to the school in 2011, largest gift in history. The football complex was named after him. Okay, and he's obviously really integrated into the college athletics. So let's look at Penn State's. Because, Penn State's no little fish, right?
No, they're not a little fish.
Penn State should have some money. Let's see. Let's see who's behind the money at Penn State here. Let's see. Well, you know what? I'm having trouble finding it. I'll have to look that up. I'll have to look up. Yeah, Penn State's being really cloaked with who's giving money to that. Let's see. Let's see here, Penn State. Oh, the point I'm trying to make is there's a lot of money at Ohio State, correct?
Sure there is.
There's a lot of money.
And there's a huge alumni base.
Huge alumni base, huge fan base. So to what degree do you feel, particularly when it comes to college rankings, which are a big part of selecting who plays what games, to what degree do you feel that subjectivity is influenced by money?
We'd be crazy to say it's not influenced. I like to think that it's not influenced enough to change the overall ranking, but sure, it has some influence.
All right. Okay. Let's see here. I have an interesting story here that was from October 2011 when I was looking for a booster at Penn State. This has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but there was a big thread about how Urban Meyer was going to be the next coach at Penn State. So, so that's interesting. Thank you, Google, for that little revelation. All right, so before you came on, I was reading about those 3 points that they said are supposed to be a big factor in who makes the college football playoff: the championship game, the 13th data point, and strength of schedule. Like I said, Ohio State's fallen critical on 2 of those points. But let's talk about Washington real quick. Washington weak in strength of schedule. In your opinion, who would have been an outside hunt besides Penn State to have made it in besides Washington?
Wow.
Of course you don't know. You're an Ohio State fan, and all you see is Buckeye. The world moves through the lens. No, come on. You got to have someone in mind.
Well, Penn State to me would have been the only other one that would have been possibly, obviously, the team up north probably could have had a say had we not beat them. And so between Penn State and Michigan, if Ohio State was not there.
All right, I'm going to propose a team to you that you may not have thought about. What about Western Michigan or Michigan? So let's look at Western Michigan here.
I was going to say, give me the stats for Michigan State. I believe Michigan State was not even near.
Well, I didn't mention Michigan State. Let's see here. Let's see where they've ended in their rankings. With so we had Alabama, we had Ohio State, Clemson, Washington, Penn State. They had Oklahoma pretty high, but Michigan was 7, and Western Michigan was 9th. So, they were, if I'm not mistaken, undefeated. Now, they didn't play as many people. What is going on in the background there?
Here? I don't have anything in my background.
I think it's coming off my computer. It was like Who Framed Roger Rabbit or something. Just a random thing here. All right.
Hey, but I am going to have to run quick.
Well, you've made the case. I appreciate you coming on as an Ohio State fan. You're not the only one I'm going to call. I'm going to try to get another one on the phone here shortly.
Okay.
He's
I
yet
would
to
like
text
to
me.
point out we have 45 freshmen on our team this year. 45. And we still are a team to be reckoned with.
45 freshmen. Well, there you've heard it. Ron England, thanks for coming on Man Up America as we piddle around. I want you to go and I want you to look, and I just want you to do a little look at Western Michigan, and you and I will talk later and see if you think that's something to look at. So that was Ron England, guys, here on Man Up America. We appreciate Ron coming on the show. He's a huge Ohio State fan, and honestly, I had him on because I give him the hardest time as a Buckeyes fan when it comes to things like this. But listen, we're all going to watch the playoff. Does anyone seriously think that Alabama's not just going to wipe the floor with most people? But, Donald Trump was elected president to the surprise of many, so maybe there's one of these others that are hunting down this line. We're going to go to another quick break. When we come back, I'm going to sum it up, and I'm going to tell you what I think would be a good move for college football going forward. So once again, you're listening to Man Up America, Talk 101.3 The Buzz, WTNB Television 27.1, Charter Channel 5, Comcast 210. If you have comments, manuptalk@gmail.com, or hit us on the Man Up Facebook page. I know all the Ohio State people are mad at me right now. And go Vols against Nebraska.
The good Dr. J. Adam here, talking to all the gentlemen out there. For those of you with wives, girlfriends, even mothers, which would make all of you, you need to call 423-472-8887 and talk to the good folks at Bliss Day Spa. Nothing says I love you like the special treatment, the VIP treatment of the services of Bliss Day Spa. Call them today, 423-472-8887. Tell them the good doctor sent you from Man Up America.
Woodman Life has been keeping its promises to members for more than 100 years. That means we've survived the Great Depression, Black Friday, and all the other ups and downs our economy has faced. In good times and bad, we're strong and stable. We're an organization your family can count on. At Woodman Life, we've always believed that slow and steady really does win the race. Our conservative investment philosophies are just one part of the strength of our organization. What really makes Woodman Life strong is the trust and loyalty of our members.
Contact your local Woodman representative today by calling 423-790-2847. With 3 offices serving Southeast Tennessee, your Woodman representative standing by to help you.
Woodman of the World Life Insurance Society of Omaha, Nebraska. Woodman Life, standing strong for generations.
Are you looking to refinance your home, or perhaps you're in the market to actually purchase? Take it from the good Dr. J. Adam. There's no need to go far and wide to look for mortgage help. Call 339-8086, Home Mortgage Solutions, LLC, right here in Cleveland. Their team's prepared to help you with lending, with refi options. Just give them a call, 339-8086, and tell them the good Dr. J. Adam sent you.
So, how's the new job?
Love it. But it's not just a job, it's a career.
Life insurance? Love?
I told you Woodman Life is really active in the community, right? They support all kinds of community improvement projects. How's your job, by the way?
Don't ask.
Begin your financial career today with Woodman Life by calling 423-790-2847.
Woodman of the World Life Insurance Society of Omaha, Nebraska. Woodman Life, standing strong for generations.
Again, thank you to our sponsors on Man Up America. You're listening to Talk 101.3 The Buzz, WTNB Television. We're in the home stretch. Again, adding Linex, Nissan of Cleveland, the Venue Creekside, Stage AVL, Rocky Top Survival Supply to the list of excellent sponsors we have for this program. Patronize those folks this holiday season, if at all possible. So here's the deal. In 2014 and in 2015, conference championships trumped all. In 2016, they not so much, okay? So earlier in 2016, head-to-head still trumped all. So this year, head-to-head still mattered, and this is what I'm going to tell you. That's why Louisville, despite being an excellent team, constantly stayed behind Clemson in the polls after suffering a loss to Clemson. And then how after the Cardinals had started to roll after a narrow loss to Clemson. So head-to-head mattered even earlier this season. But when the college football team made their selections, evidently it didn't so much. Now, this is what I want to bring up. So in 2014, the College Football Playoff Committee, Selection Committee, picked Ohio State, who had a far worse loss than TCU out of Texas, and they pushed them into the Final Four for the playoff. Some of you remember this. This was in 2014. They snubbed TCU, even though the head-to-head was there. In 2016, it seems things have changed because Penn State got snubbed. So Ohio State, in both situations, even though they were on a different side of the situation each time, seems to win. Again, let's look at the playoff picks of Alabama, Clemson, Washington. As they were slugging it out to be claiming conference championships, the Ohio State Buckeyes were sitting at home. They were relaxing. They were resting for the next game. Does that make sense to you? Does that make sense to you that in 2014, TCU was sent to the house, Ohio State was let in, even though Ohio State in 2014 was where Penn State is right now? The same position, yet they get the bid to the playoff. No consistency from this committee, guys. None. So it doesn't make sense. In 2014, the Buckeyes got in over TCU, and it was solely because the Buckeyes won a conference championship game. TCU went to the house. 2016, the Buckeyes get in despite not even qualifying for a conference championship game. It's not even qualifying. So here's the deal. This is what I think it boils down to. I told you we're going to man up on this. And I honestly, I'm going to be as straight as I can with you. Alabama's a big program, huge alumni base. We recently saw a poll that showed the fan base in college football. Let me see if I can get that up real quick because it was really, really enlightening. It showed, let's see here. Ohio State was ranked number 8th in the world in fan base. It's got to play a factor. Got to play a factor. So let's look here. Let's see who number 1 in the world is in fan base. And you tell me how you see this. All right. By the way, for the current year, Ohio State's athletic budget is the largest in the nation. $109 million in that program. $109 million. Amazing for the athletic program. Largest in the nation. I'm telling you, money speaks, right? Money speaks. So let's see here. Largest fan bases in the country. That was a great article this past week. So Ohio State's on that list. So the fan index here. Ohio State's on that list. Alabama's on that list. There are just a lot of strong programs. Penn State, even though there's a lot of history to that program, Penn State, I don't think, made that list. So 16 most powerful bases in college football. Here we go. You'll find this interesting. Number 16 is Oregon. Okay, so we got it. Alabama's on that list. USC's number 15. That makes sense, right? Number 16 is Oregon. Oregon's got Nike behind them. The president of Nike was an Oregon alumni. That's why they have all those fancy jerseys. USC, huge program. We know all about that. Florida, number 14. We're getting into some SEC schools. Florida has the 14th most powerful fan base in college football. 13, Oklahoma has the 13th most powerful fan base in college football. Let's see, 9th overall valuation of $96 million in their program. Florida State comes in next. They have just over $70 million in their program. Number 11 fan base is Georgia. Georgia has $102 million into that program. Number 10, Texas A&M. Texas A&M, that one surprised me a little bit. But Texas A&M, Texas is a big football state, $110 million in that program. For all you Vol fans, Tennessee's number 9. Number 9 most powerful fan base in college football. And they're saying that Tennessee currently sits on, let's see, they don't have a dollar rating on that program. They're quoting the size of the stadium and the fan base here. Let's see here. Who is behind Tennessee for number 7? Nebraska. So 2 of the largest fan bases, both in the top 10, playing that bowl game. I said at the start of the show, I'll say it again, that Tennessee-Nebraska game is going to be a great game to watch. Nebraska was number 7. Number 6 is Texas. Texas is number 6. Let's see here. So Texas, I want to see how much money's in that Texas program. They're not showing in the Texas program. Sorry about that. How about LSU, number 5? All you LSU fans. Tennessee fans, are you a little upset LSU's got a more powerful fan base than you? You got more. Yours is more powerful than Georgia, but not more powerful than LSU's. Wow. So, yeah, $138 million in revenue out of that program. The program's worth $111 million at LSU. Number 4 in the nation, Michigan. Michigan. This is why it shocked me. Number 1, I think Michigan won that head-to-head with Ohio State. I think the refs handed it to Ohio State. That's me. Valued at $105,000. So, Bama fans, you were number 3. Roll Tide, number 3, right? Number 3 most powerful fan base in college football. Your stadium has 101,000 fans that it can sit. The real power of your program is worth $150 million in revenue. $150 million in revenue passes through is related to the Alabama athletic program. Guess who's number 2? Notre Dame. Notre Dame's number 2. $123 million passing through that program. And number 1 most powerful fan base in college football, number 1 most powerful fan base with annual revenues exceeding $170 million. Remember I told you before, $109 million, the largest athletic budget of any university, and worth $170 million in revenue is Ohio State. Ohio State. So Alabama, Ohio State in the top 3. You got to think. Clemson wasn't on that list. Washington wasn't on that list. Penn State's not on that list. Western Kentucky's not on that list. Michigan's on that list. Michigan's hunting on that list. But after the controversy of the Ohio State-Michigan game, who knows? Who knows on that? But you can't tell me that an $170 million program bends to allow a team from Penn State in that doesn't even make the list. You can't tell me that as a committee, as you sit around a table, that that's not a factor. When you're selling sponsorships in BCS championship games and bowl games, when you're trying to draw attention to the college football playoff, you cannot tell me that having the number 1 program, the number 1 most influential fan base, $170 million in revenue, $109 million in an athletic budget, doesn't play a factor. Especially when, by the typical measuring stick, you didn't measure up. I don't care who you are, I don't care how you feel about Ohio State making this playoff. By the traditional measuring stick of winning a conference championship game, of having the 13th game and 13th data point, and of strength of schedule, by those 3 things, on 2 of them, Ohio State, it's not that they don't even stack up, it's that they're not even on the radar. They didn't play a 13th game. They didn't play for a conference championship. So what's influencing the committee? Show me something else influencing the committee. And everybody says, well, the rankings. What are the rankings? The rankings are simply what the talking heads feel about it. It's how they see it. It's who they think is the best team. That's the rankings, okay? That's why you can look at the top 10 and a 1-loss team will be ranked higher than a 0-loss team. because the committee looks and says a one-loss Georgia team has got to be better than a no-loss Mississippi Swamp University. It's got to be better. So that happens. That's, I mean, number one, $170 million in revenue. How much did I say Alabama had? Third largest? Once again, the second largest was Notre Dame. Notre Dame's got $123 million in revenue. So Alabama, now this is Alabama today, $150 million. Alabama's no little fish. But Alabama's got several national championships under their belt, a lot of steam behind that program. Alabama number 3, Ohio State is number 1. So I'm the selection committee. You're on this selection committee with me, guys. We're sitting here, and we've got all the teams on the list, and we're saying who's going to make the playoff. And I look, all right, we've got Penn State. Well, we know Alabama's going to make it. Third largest fan base, undefeated, killing people. Alabama's in. What about Clemson? They played last year. They look pretty good this year. One loss, but yeah, Clemson's in. Win the conference championship, Clemson's in. Washington. Yeah, you know, Washington still measures up on the stick on a lot of levels. There's some criticism there. We didn't talk too much about Washington on this program, but that strength of schedule is of concern. But it's hard not to put them in. We've ranked them high all season, so we put them in. All right, last but not least, conference champion, victor in the head-to-head, Penn State. Program's not as worth as much money. Ohio State, big money, big money. But, you know, they beat Michigan, and even though they lost to Penn State, we've been keeping them high on the rankings. Big money. Really? What do we think? Let's man up. What talks? Mr. Producer, does money talk?
Every time.
Hold on, say it again. Say it in the mic. Does money talk?
Every time.
Every time. Ohio State, $170 million in revenue. Number 1 money program in the nation. Did that influence their positioning into a college football playoff?
It's TV, money.
It's all about the Benjamins.
Yeah.
It's all about TV.
Who's going to watch?
Y'all thought it was just Donald Trump playing to the TV market, right? It's not. Everything you love and hold dear. Vol fans, you want to get your team into the playoff.
First, you can win.
First, you do have to win. Winning matters, but not. Yeah. But winning isn't everything, as we've discovered. Money is everything.
If they can win on their schedule, they'll be up there.
Hey, but Tennessee's not far off. Tennessee's number 9.
Yeah.
Tennessee's number 9, largest influential fan base and money program in the nation. So Tennessee just got to put a little more money behind it, right?
Yeah.
We got to generate some more money, some more revenue, and then all of a sudden they'll just hand it to you.
Yep.
You know, they'll set TCU out and they'll put you in.
You could lose.
They'll set Penn State out and put you in.
Lose to Bama and still get in the playoff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know why? Because of money.
Have Tennessee and Bama in the playoff. There's your playoff right there.
Oh, listen, I believe in an all-SEC playoff anyway.
Yeah.
No, I'm joking. That's an all-SEC playoff. All right, that's my rant for the day. Listen, it's good to take a break from some of the more serious things that take place in our society. We're watching the picks for Donald Trump. We had a great show on racism earlier this week that was very serious. Demetrius Ramsey was in for that show. Check it out on the Facebook page or WTNB's YouTube page. Next week, we'll be back in the studio. We're going to talk a little bit about the holidays. We'll get back to cabinet picks, Secretary of State cabinet picks.
There'll be a lot to review next week.
I think there'll be a whole lot to review next week. But we want to make sure if you've got comments, manuptalk at gmail.com. Hit us on Facebook /manuptalk. Check out the WT. And when's ice skating? It's here almost, right?
Next Wednesday.
Ice skating, Wednesday. Bradley Square Mall. Come to see ice or go ice skate at the Bradley Square Mall next Wednesday. Yeah. I thought it was the 10th. That is
Thursday for sure. Maybe it's Thursday.
Maybe it's Thursday. Whenever they can get
Starting
the water
Thursday
on. We have rain
New
now,
Year's.
so we can turn the hoses back on. So here we go. Ice skating at the Bradley Square Mall. Thank you for listening to Man Up America. We'll be back next week. And listening to Talk 101.3, we're out.
The good Dr. J.